Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk on NBCSN. You could see him every night at 5:30 Eastern. What do you think of that scenario, Mike?
Yeah, I'm a little surprised by that, but it makes sense if the goal is to allow Brady to admit no wrongdoing. I thought the easier path would be for Tom Brady to take Roger Goodell up on the fairly obvious offer to turn over the text messages and emails now. I think Goodell made that clear last week in his press conference following the league meetings that the door's still open for new evidence to be introduced. Brady takes advantage. Goodell finds that he's now fully cooperated with the investigation and cuts the suspension in half that way, but that would entail ultimately a 2-game suspension, not for failing to cooperate, but for whatever it is that Brady did or knew about, or I still don't know what he knew about or what he did, but whatever that is, that's what he would be suspended for.
All right, this Ray McDonald situation, and now people are saying the Bears should be held accountable. There should be culpability here. Has there been a process here or the opportunity to do this in the NFL that just hasn't been put into play?
Well, back in 2008, the NFL started a program where if you have multiple players suspended in the same year, part of the money that the player would have made during the time that he's suspended, that gets charged to the team as a fine, and it goes up with each successive suspension, the third, the fourth, et cetera. It's more and more of the money that has to be given over to the league, but that's a parking ticket. It's a cost of doing business. That doesn't really deter a team from rolling the dice on a guy like Ray McDonald. I mean, what do you have to lose? If the guy gets in trouble, you just cut him. Okay, hey, we gave him a shot, it didn't work out, and now he's gone. When you attach draft pick compensation to that, and that's something the NFL owners have discussed, but they haven't decided to act on it yet. It wouldn't be easy. Complicated formula. Just there's all sorts of unintended consequences I think it could create if they would do it. But that's the way to get teams to think twice when that guy with first-round talent is available in round 5 because of off-field issues, and you're trying to win football games and win championships and remain employed. At some point you're going to say, what the heck, let's do it. Well, if what's tied to that is the possibility of losing draft picks down the road, that's a way to get a team not just to think twice about who they bring into the organization, Dan, but also what steps they take to keep the guy out of trouble once he gets there. How much did the Bears work with Ray McDonald to avoid bad situations? Or was their attitude, hey, he's on his own. If he gets in trouble, he's just gone. Maybe if you have that draft pick compensation that gets stripped away on the back end, teams will work harder to keep guys out of trouble.
But then we also have to have sort of a system that says what value do we place on domestic violence? Is that the same as a DUI or whatever else a player, the trouble he can get into? You've had 2 NFL players who have driven under the influence and killed people. So how serious would that be if you get arrested for a DUI?
Well, and that's part of what would have to be figured out. But see, the NFL started down this path. Once it decided to supplement the criminal justice system with its own brand of discipline to be imposed on players who get in trouble when they're off the clock, away from work, in the off season, those weeks and months when they're on their own time and they're just private citizens who really aren't working for anybody. They're just living their lives. When the NFL decided, right or wrong, that it was going to impose punishment on guys who get into trouble when they're not working, you start down a path that you eventually learn through months and years of bad decisions and poor investigations. At some point, you'd better have a great system in place, clear rules, fair procedures, and I think that's where the NFL's found itself right now. It's gone so far down this road. To finish the job properly, it needs to have really comprehensive procedures for all, and somebody's got to sit down and make these decisions, and they've got to have rules that apply in every case, whether it's a DUI that causes injury, domestic violence, integrity of the game violations. I mean, it all goes under that same umbrella, and somebody's got to figure it all out.
Talking to Mike Florio, ProFootballTalk.com. What's next for Adrian Peterson? Explain this, whatever his strategy is to hold out, not going to the OTAs.
Yeah, he's got $250,000 tied to participating in the organized team activities. The real question for me is, will he show up for the mandatory minicamp on June 16th? Because he's yet to really do anything himself, say or do anything that makes it obvious he wants out of Minnesota. We continue to hear from time to time that he does. He's never said so himself. It's a dangerous territory for him because you can't paint yourself as the victim when you're the guy that started this. And he's trying to paint himself as a victim because the Vikings didn't support him properly. They didn't do this, they didn't do that. Look, the Vikings didn't do anything. He's the one that created this mess, and at some point he's going to lose the fan base, and I don't know that he has many alternatives. The Vikings aren't willing to trade him unless they get offered a package they can't refuse. He's got few options. You either play for the Vikings or play for nobody. And I think the Vikings very politely taking that position. Hey, we'll see you when you get here. If you want to make $12.75 million this year, we're ready to pay it to you. And otherwise we're not doing anything. And I think June 16 to 18, those are the key dates to watch now. Will he show up for that mandatory minicamp? Because if he doesn't, that's the first instance we can say, okay, something really is wrong here, and maybe he won't play this year.
Is he tradable?
Well, he's tradable, but the question is, what do the Vikings want for him? You know, they're going to just give him away to somebody. Jerry Jones, the Cowboys owner, recently mused about the possibility of giving up a 2016 first-round pick if that would mean helping the team win now. And he didn't mention Adrian Peterson, but really that's the only need that they'd have that you would use a first-round pick to fill. But, from the Vikings' perspective, why do they want something that will help them next year? They're going to want something that's going to help them this year. They were 7-9 with Peterson missing 15 games last year. With him, they're a potential playoff team. So if you're going to give him up, you better get something in return that's going to make up that difference.
The holdup on Brady's appeal, I didn't hear anything about it, so I didn't know. Can you shed light on that?
The language in the labor deal is very confusing, which I guess applies to most of the provisions in the labor deal. But what they have to do is schedule a hearing by tomorrow. They don't have to do the hearing by tomorrow. They just have to schedule it. They have to pick a date for it by tomorrow. And even then, the NFL and the NFLPA can get together and say, well, we'll pick a few. We'll wait a few more days. We'll wait another week. They can agree to whatever they want. But there's a thought out there that it had to actually be done by tomorrow, and that was never the case.
Thank you, Mike.
All right, see you, buddy.
That's Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk. You can watch him every weekday night, 5:30 Eastern on NBC SN.